Hey everybody, Bubba here. Finally got a little break in the weather. It's a balmy 40 degrees with, I don't know, 10-15 mile an hour wind, so I'm hoping that the microphone is okay. Today I'm going to go over stoves, bushcraft stoves. There's things that I wish I would have known going in. There's the romantic side of, you know, using a stove while you're out there if you can't make a decent fire. And about a dozen years ago, I believe the first stove I bought was like a backpacking stove, except it didn't collapse. It was for the isobutane mixture, and that is just a simple little burner, veritable, so you can put it down from a simmer all the way up to full blast to really heat the water and boil water. I love this stove. I've had this, like I said, for 12 years. The pot holder had broke the spot weld, and I just drilled a hole and put a screw and a nut on there. This has been with me several countries, multiple vacations and outings. This is what I carry in my car every day when I cook or warm up my bumper lunches, because I can cook. Like on a real fire you can cook, but when there's a fire ban or something like that, you have to use a stove. Or if it's super dry conditions and you don't want to risk, lighting up the whole forest. The drawback on this is the fuel. Not everybody carries the fuel, and when you can find the fuel in my area, this big bottle is roughly under $20, and you can get the half size for around $10. This size, 15.5 ounces, I can cook on this gas for a whole week, cooking breakfast, coffee, lunches, and dinners for 2 or 3 people. So this gas does go quite a bit a long way. The one drawback on it is that your pot sits here, so you really got to center your pot, otherwise it gets a little tippy. Now, you just got to be careful, common sense. But on the flip side of that, if you don't want something tippy, I bought the generic version. I believe it was Snow Peak that first came out with this. So this is a fold-up tabletop stove. The pot holders fold out, and then it has feet. And then we have a tube that runs to your gas. Now, if you're running it on the isopropyl, this is long enough. This is an adjustable valve, so you can turn up and down the flame just like on the other one. And this has a little built-in sparker. It's junk. You're still going to use a lighter or a ferro rod to pop off that gas to get your initial start. What I do, this is my stove that I carry, or burner, that I use at the cabin. So this solely stays at my cabin, but I grabbed it for this demonstration. And then also on here, I'm running the converter. These are, I don't know, $10. And what that does is that changes the fuel nipple from the isopropyl to where you can run the Coleman propane tanks, the 1 pound tanks. Good thing about that is the 1 pound tanks are usually available anywhere, Walmart, any Home Depot or any big box store like that, and you usually can get 2 pounds for $7. So it's way more economical on this. Drawback is that some of the gases won't burn when it gets super cold. It kind of spits a little and doesn't gasify. Now, when I run this adapter on this stove, you have to have the bottle tilted up at a 45. This line is too short for me to put it all the way up because the propane bottles are too tall. So I just laid it at an angle. That way, when the gas escapes the bottle, you won't have any problem with trying to drown out your stove. So these are gas stoves, whether it's for the butane mix or the propane. I love them. Cook on them all the time because you can cook. Whether you're going from a simmer to a full-blown, bringing a boil, doing pasta or searing any type of meat. So then that brings me to alcohol stoves. I do like my alcohol stove. And apparently it got jiggled shut to where my lighter's stuck. And all you have to do, I mean, you can search alcohol stoves. Everybody has a video on them. The only drawback that I dislike with the alcohol stoves, see if I have any fuel in here. No. It only holds about 1 ounce to 2 ounces of fuel. After it gets done burning, you cannot add fuel back into it without the risk of it having a flash start and coming up in your face. This type of cooking is only going to be for heating water, bringing your water to a boil, or warming something in the short term, because this is only going to last you 10 to 13 minutes per burn. And then you have to let it cool off. Luckily it's brass, so it cools quite quickly. And if you don't burn it all the way, the tops have a rubber seal so you can save your fuel. On the top, I don't use it much. There is what's called a simmer ring, to where you can choke the flame. Since it doesn't get to a really super hot flame, I only use denatured alcohol or the yellow bottle heat, the ethanol. I don't use it to simmer because I don't want to sit there and wait for it to come up to temperature. And then whether you have a collapsible or a regular stand pot holder or a crisscross one, you only need 1 inch or 2 above the pot for that flame to bloom nicely. Now, on the second side of that, I've used this same pot holder for my homemade burner, which is an empty tin. It's just a small tin, and what I'll do is I'll set the bottom down, and then I'll put the top on top of it because it raises it. So when I put that inside my holder, that brings it up to where I got a couple inches so it hits the bottom of the pot. Now I use mixed fuels in just an empty container. You can burn alcohol in it. Just pour 1 ounce or 2 in there and light it, and it will cook for you. It will take, again, probably 13 minutes or so for it to get to a boil. It's not going to be a super hard roaring boil, but you will be able to purify water. You will be able to cook for your coffee or whatever. But again, this is not really cooking. This is just for heating up water. And it's great. I use it all the time. It's quiet. These other ones are noisy. If you want to just stop and have a cup of coffee or hot chocolate or tea, it doesn't take much. And the chemical I use, I don't really use denatured alcohol in this. I use gel fire starter. So this is, I got this at a big hardware box store. This is a quart. It was like $8. An ounce of this burns just long as an ounce of ethanol, ounce of denatured alcohol. Has the same burn time. This isn't as clean. It doesn't have a smell and it doesn't have smoke, but it leaves a residue behind in the bottom of the tin. And what's great about that is I also use, if I can get it out, try not to let my bags fly away, is Isobutane solid state fuel, solid block fuel. This is a new one I just picked up to replenish. So these are little tubes, little squares you set on fire. And what's good about these is if you're using that just in a tin, you can use multiple blocks right after another, or fire up 2 blocks at the same time to get a longer burn rate. So you can have a little bit more versatility as you're cooking. So that takes just water out of the equation, and you can do some sauteing and stuff like that. Would I cook a full meal with an Isobutane? For just myself, you can get away with it, but it's going to take a while. So when I go to needing to cook, I always fall back on some type of gas stove or wood stove. So that brings me to my solo stove, or your Bush Buddy. It's a gasifier wood stove. So if you can't have a fire and you still want still have some fat wood laying in there half burnt. So this is a gasifier. Once you get it rocking, you feed it through the port. Once it starts getting hot, you'll see it start making a little tornado flame in there, and it burns super efficient. And then you have your pot up here, and you can cook really good. These eat fuel. So if you're going to use one of these, you really want to have some wood prep done first. You really want to have your small sticks. I mean, I go all the way up to, thumb-sized sticks, sometimes even more, so you can get more of a burn and not have to feed it constantly. But you have to watch it, and you have to just keep feeding it. And this one's the stainless one, and they cool down real good after you get it done, and it burns almost all the ashes completely out. This thing, I wipe it down every once in a while. And another good thing about this stove is that you can get an adapter for it to where you can run your alcohol stove in it. So if you don't want to feed it wood, it's a little ring that brings the alcohol stove up to the top, so it's not so far down, so you can capture the most heat. So what do I got left? Oh, I got my other Kelly kettle. This is kind of like the best of both worlds. Pot holders, a couple dishes, and this is the small version, so this is just for a single person. And those are stainless steel, so you're going to want to use your pot grabber if you're picking that up. So with this, carry a piece of tinfoil in there that I use as a windshield, which is very important. You got to use a windscreen. You got to block the wind. No matter what you're doing with the wind, is going to be trouble. More trouble for anything that's alcohol based or chemical based. Wood, it just blows the flame around. So you always want some type of way to divert the wind away from your fire. So this has a burn pan with 2 holes in it. One's for air. Well, they're both for air, but that's where you can feed in your sticks, just like the Solo stove. And then there's tons of reviews on the Kettle. It cooks, heats from the inside, so when this sits on your pot and the fire's going, the fire comes all the way through, heating the whole kettle of water at once. Very fast, very efficient, 3-minute burn. I use this a lot just to run alcohol, 1.5 ounces alcohol and water. Even though this is aluminum, the base is stainless. It hasn't burned too hot for the aluminum at all. I wouldn't run it with the grates on it. There's little grates. You can really accessorize this, so you can try to cook something on the grates. Doesn't work that great for me. But on this, you can multi-purpose. It comes with a stand. So now this stand slips into the pot. So if I had a cup, I could heat something else on top as I'm boiling my water to utilize the same flame for 2 things at once. Love it. Use it only when I'm usually car camping. This is a big bulky item. And then the Solo stove I only use if I'm out with two or 3 people. If I'm just going out by myself, I can take the Kettle, because the Kettle, I also have the adapter to where I can turn it just into a wood burning pot. So I got my built-in stand, air intake, put in my fuel, works great. And that is about the last of what I got. So I got multiple wood fuel stoves, multiple gas stoves, and a couple multiple alcohol stoves. What I like to start off with is just the gas and a Solo pot and maybe an alcohol burner just for fun. The alcohol is quick and easy if you're making ramen, to where you're just boiling water, coffee, tea, hot chocolate, anything else you're going to want to cook on wood or gas. It's always fun. If you can't have an open fire, usually anywhere there's a fire ban, you can still cook with a stove, whether it's wood or alcohol. You just have to have it secured on a table or on a rock, so it doesn't have any dangers of anything getting caught from any of the sparks. So hopefully my droning on about the different stoves will help you in the decision of what you want to buy. If you'd like me to actually do a kind of a review and start these up and show you how they work, leave a comment and let me know. Until then, do what you love, stay in the woods. GoPro turn off. GoPro stop recording.